Good morning. This is Michele Zaragoza, team leader for Tracy Lodi Stockton, Modesto, and Manteca. We are here with Chad Woods, and we're about to chat a little bit about the rules and laws and everything that's going on in our new world right now, and everything that's becoming the regular new, right? Is that what we're saying? So, Chad, please take it away.
Okay, thank you for that introduction on that. So I was looking at the photographs here, and a lot of these people I've seen you in different meetings, and I've talked to you on the phone individually on that. So let's focus in a little bit on where we're at now when it comes to the evictions, and or if you have a seller that's trying to sell the house that's tenant occupied, because that seems to be the biggest issues right now. um, as everyone's aware, the moratorium has been extended on the unlawful detainers until June of 2021. And I would be surprised if it wasn't continued to December of 2021 and or the first of next year, because it seems that they're doing it in 3-month increments to get it through the process there. But what that basically is under the Civil Code section 1940, 46.2, with the notice on that. You have to give a 15-day notice for failure to pay rents. If they sign the declaration saying that the rents are due, or they're not being paid because of COVID related issues on that, then it's going to revert and you can't move forward based upon the failure to pay rents. Everyone's pretty up to speed on that. That law's been in place now for almost a year and a half. It's going to continue until June. And quite honestly, I'd be surprised if it doesn't continue until the end of December on it and goes through the process. So we're more with the way the market is right now. A lot of the questions that I'm fielding now are, you have a client that's come to you and said, hey, the market's so hot, I want to sell this rental property, I want to get out. How can we get out? How can we sell the house, and how can we go through the process there? And as all of you are aware, that there used to be pretty straightforward with the contract. We'd give the notice to the tenant saying, hey, we intend to sell the property. Then they go give the notice, the 60-day notice on it, and we go through the whole process there. But that is gone now with the COVID regulations on this. And what we're facing are tenants that know or are savvy with the law on this, and they are prolonging the period of time on which they can surrender possession of the house as long as possible, because why move if you don't have to pay any rents, even if the house is going to be sold on that? So by a quick show of nods and hands going that way, how many of you are dealing with this 60-day notice and a tenant with the potential of selling an investment property for one of your landlords? I see a couple hands pop up on there. Okay, so let's talk about the 60-day notice. And by the way, if you guys have questions on this, I've got the chat going on the side there. If you have a question, kind of throw it out there, or if you have one, unmute yourself and ask the question on that. It makes it a little bit more interactive. Otherwise, it's another Zoom meeting where you're talking to a picture and it never gets anything on it. So jump in if you have questions on that. I'll try to answer the best of my ability. But keep in mind that one of the problems that we're going to face on this is that if you have a very specific area that you're asking about the law, we're going to have to talk offline as opposed to online, because I'm giving you a general overview, but you may have specific facts that go to your notice that need to be addressed going through the process there. Okay. 60-day notices. If you have a tenant that has been in the property more than 12 consecutive months or 24, depending on how many different people were living on the property on that, you have to provide a 60-day notice for them to move out in the eviction process there. It's a just cause eviction based upon a 60-day notice. Prior to the COVID hitting on that, you had to give the notice. You either had to help with the rental assistance or moving assistance on that, or you intended to take the property off the rental market. Now it's gone a little bit further. So let's focus in on a 6-day notice with intent to remove the property from the rental market and the reason for that. It used to be that we could say we just check off the box on the 60-day notice saying we're going to take it off the rental market. Now we have to take it off the rental market for a number of reasons. One of them is the intent to sell. One of them is to rehab the property on that. One of them is for a family member to move back in there, and then substantial remodel going through the process on there, or waste being committed upon the property. Let's start with the basic one that we have here that most of you are going to face, is that my landlord is looking at the way that the market's going right now and they want to sell the property. How do we sell the property? You can give a 60-day notice to a tenant that's occupying the property, so long as that the agreement that the tenant is living there and residing on has expired. In other words, they've already completed their first 12-month term and they're into their month-to-month tenancy on that. And then secondary to that, you have to have a buyer that intends to move into the house. Without the buyer intending to move into the house, the 60-day notice is voidable. And as some of you saw the last couple times we were on this, we have the plaintiff's mandatory cover sheet and supplemental allegations for unlawful detainer that we have to turn in when we do any evictions at this point in time. And the lovely page 4 of the document under 10, just cause eviction, you have to have a buyer in contract that intends to move into the house. I have to fix it up to keep it as a rental instead of selling. Give me 1 second. I'll get you yours, Steve. That's a pretty specific question on that. I just want to clarify something on this. With the 60-day notice with a buyer that intends to move into the house, you can't provide that notice until you're in contract with that buyer for it to be a valid notice. So in other words, you put it on the market, you disclose in your MLS listing, any listings on this, that we will provide a 60-day notice to the tenant if your buyer intends to move into the house on this once we're in contract, but it will ultimately be on the buyer to get the tenant out because you can't guarantee that the tenant's going to move. And keep in mind, your standard purchase agreement contract in there has a language that says that you're going to have the house empty 5 days before close. You got to make sure that you strike that out and let them know we can't guarantee that this house is going to be empty based upon that notice. Okay, and then let's go to Steve. Steve had a quick question. It says, what happens if you have a tenant move out and then you decide after you fix it up to keep it as a rental instead of selling? Depends on why the tenant moved out. If the tenant moved out based upon your intent that you're going to sell the property and then you change your mind and don't send it, there is some school of thought, and it's probably going to become a reality based upon some of the self-help groups out there, that if within a 12-month period of time, if you put it back onto the rental market, the previous tenant can come back and say that you wrongfully evicted them based upon this notice that you're removing it from the rental property on that. Then it'll be a question of fact on whether it was a violation of the code or not. And I believe that these are being handled in the Superior Court at the small claims level on it, because it's a $2,500 fine on it going from there. So the short answer is, if your owner changes their mind and decides to put it onto the rental market and bring it back in there, safest bet would be to offer it to the previous tenant at the new rates and amounts that it's going to be at. If they refuse, then you can move on to the next one on that. And then Patrick, you says with the 560-day notice, is a relocation money required? Yes. So in the statute.
Sorry, that was 60 days. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, I got it. The 5 is you missed the dollar sign on it. So what happens when you do any of the 60-day notices on this, you have to do the relocation fee, which is equivalent to 1 month's rent on that. So you have a choice. What was that? You have a choice. You can either waive the last month's rent in accordance to the 60-day notice when you put it, and it's the language is there on the car form, and then on the ones that I put out on there, the language, you waive the last month's rent, or within 15 days of notice, the 60-day notice, you provide the tenant with a moving assistance check equivalent to the last month's rent. And then if they don't move out, then you can go and sue the tenant for the money on the rents there. Generally speaking, I would recommend that you just waive the last month's rent and then deal with it if they don't move out, because the reality is, as soon as you start giving money without a surrender of cash for keys on that, the likelihood of them taking your money and not moving, it just all depends on the tenant. Related finance, what can we do? Let's see, Rochelle, after you give them notice and the tenants give you a response of declaration of COVID-19 related financial distress, what can we do? It depends on what kind of notice you gave. If you gave a notice, a 15-day notice based upon failure to pay rents, then the COVID declaration would be active, because COVID declaration is effective against rents. If you gave a 60-day notice that doesn't deal with rents on that, the COVID declaration is not supposed to take effect as to a 60-day notice, because it's outside of the preventable aspect on that. Reality is that time we get down to the courthouse, the law may change, because it's taken a long time for the court to process it. It's taken even longer to get a hearing date. And then they've changed the law on us 5 times, 6 times in the last year and a half. So what it would probably end up being is, if you did a 60-day notice based upon a failure, 60-day notice based upon intent to new buyer moving in, going on that way, and they say it's COVID related, They're probably going to have a COVID hearing to determine whether it is COVID related or retaliatory based upon the COVID. So if you gave your client, let's say the tenant gets a 15-day notice based upon a failure to pay rents during any COVID period of time, they sign the COVID declaration, and then within 2 days, the landlord then serves a 60-day notice with intent to remove the property from the rental market for substantial repair or something along that lines. It's a rebuttal presumption that it's retaliatory in nature that they did that. So you gotta talk with your landlords before they do any notices, because if they do one type of notice and they're not successful, then there's always a chance that it's a rebuttable presumption that later on the tenants can come in and say, oh no, this is retaliation for COVID related rents. And that can bring everything into the COVID protocols on that. Okay, you guys are blowing up the side of the chat here. So declaration related 60-day notice can be submitted until there's a buyer in contract period. Yeah, the 60-day notice based upon intent to sell and a buyer moving in there, you can't give that notice until you have a buyer in contract, because you have to sign a declaration that's the declaration on the plaintiff's mandatory cover sheet saying that you're in contract and that the buyer intends to move in there. So if you do just at once saying, yeah, we're selling it and the buyer's going to move in there, but you don't have it in contract, when you sign the declaration on that, or when you went down there, the time to start this, the time for it to be a valid 60-day notice doesn't start ticking until you're in contract. And yes, you don't have to give them the last month's rent. You can waive the last month's rent for the moving expenses if they've been there longer than the 12-month period of time on that. I'm looking on the side, sir. Do we have any other questions on this? Okay. So other reasons that you can give notices for the 60-day notice on that, when the 60-day notice for substantial repair has to be more than, oh, we're going to go in and slap some paint and carpet on there and put a new toilet there. You have to have a meaningful force in action that makes the house, in essence, uninhabitable for a period of time greater than 5 days. It's a fancy way of saying is that you can't come in and say, I'm taking the toilet out, therefore the bathroom doesn't work, and I'm going to put a new toilet in, and it's going to take my guy 5 days to do that. That's not how it works. You have to have something that deals with the substantial necessity that the water has to be shut off for a prolonged period of time to do the plumbing that's associated with the repair. Same thing with electrical. If you're going to do electrical, you can't come in and just pull out the sockets and put them back in and say, oh, it's going to take 5 days. If you have a power box that's going to take a substantial period of time where the house will be without power during that point in time on that, that would be a substantial repair or modification. If you're removing the windows in the entirety of the house, if you're doing the gutting the inside of the house where you go down to studs and things of that nature, and it makes it so the condition of the house would not be habitable, that would be valid reasons for rehab and going through there. Your client or your landlord is not going to be able to, in my opinion, they're not going to be able to say, okay, it's a substantial repair, go in there, rip the carpet out, rip the toilets out, paint and put it back in there, and then not have any recourse from the previous tenant. It's got to be a substantial repair. Everybody got that one? So just make sure that if you have a landlord that says, I'm going to do a substantial repair, it is substantial repair, because you got to do more than just the cosmetics on it, because they don't want it to be a cosmetic. It has to be a substantial repair on this. And then you also have the newest one that it seems to be that people have family members all over the world that are now going to move back home and move into the rental property on that. The 60-day notice for intent for a direct family member to move back into the house. If you have a family member that is going to move back into that house, they need to move back into that house for a 12-month period of time minimum to avoid any redress or recourse from the previous tenant saying that you used it as a guise or pretext to get them out of the house and continue to rent the property on fair market value to someone other than them. So if you have a family member that's moving back into the house, they got to be there for a 12-month period of time just to be in compliance with what's going through the process there. Don't plan on, oh, well, my cousin then moved and changed his mind and now he goes there, I'm going to put it back on the market. Your landlord runs the risk of it having problems there. I just saw one on the side here. If a tenant is less than 12 months and on a month-to-month, does a 60 notice apply? So if it's less than a year, okay. So that is a good question. in my opinion, the 30-day notice is dead, regardless of the 12-month period of time of being in residence on that and at all, because of the COVID restrictions and the change in the COVID for cause or just cause on that. I don't believe that they would substantiate a 30-day notice because they've been less than 12 months on that. But I have not taken one all the way through litigation on that aspect of it. I think the reality is based upon 1946, the for cause evictions on that. It doesn't even address a 30-day. It only addresses the 60-day. But the initial SB 91 says the intent was for to cover all evictions in the state of California. So I think that that would include a 30-day notice, which means that it's mandated that you have to do a 60-day notice based upon it, even though they've been there less than 12 months on that. So one of the things that you should keep in mind when you're doing the different notices on this is that when you have some downtime or spare time on this is you might Google search unlawful detainer defenses, because there is some pretty substantial information out there in regards to what is and is not the law when it comes to the self-help groups on this. They do actually have some pretty informative websites that show the breakdowns of the laws and the perspective of what you're going to face when your tenant goes to one of these self-help groups on it, going from there. Obviously, there's a lot of the self-help saying, hey, pay us instead of your landlord, and we'll keep it stalled out going on that way. But there is a couple of organizations that out of the Bay Area that are actually, they are providing the information and they are telling the tenants, hey, you know, just because you don't have to pay rents doesn't mean you don't have to abide by the contractual terms of the agreement. So there's different levels of self-help groups that are out there on there. But if you want to, you can take a look at those and go through the process on that. Generally speaking, though, in today's market and world on this, the reality is if you have a landlord that really wants to sell their house and take advantage of the market right now, there should be a meaningful dialogue and discussion with the tenants to see what kind of arrangement can be made for the tenant to move out of the property in a timely manner with or without some kind of compensation from the landlord. That's a fancy way of saying cash for keys. Remember those days from 2009 through 2015 where everyone was doing cash for keys to get tenants and out of the property there? You're probably, the way the law is set up right now, if you have a tenant or landlord that wants to sell immediately and take advantage of the market on that, they're probably going to have to negotiate some kind of surrender of possession of the property from all occupants of the property on that. Let's see, having a dog in the property on that, Carmel, if you're going back to that, if you remember, they changed the law with the comfort animals on that. You are pretty much no longer able to charge any sufficient fees or any outside deposits. And it's no longer a breach of the agreement if they can demonstrate that it's a care animal. And if the care animal, they get the certificate online there, it costs them $45. They're going to get that and they're going to provide it to you. And it's not a basis for eviction anymore when it comes to a care animal. Now, obviously, that's going to be fact specific. If they have 15 pit bulls living in a back room and it's just tearing around the house, that's a little bit different than comfort animals going in that way. So it's going to be as it goes through this. Tenant breach agreement like having a dog that's not. Do you still prepare those agreements? If a tenant breaches the agreement like having. Cash for key agreements, it's been my experience that generally speaking, the simpler the document, the better. Every time you get a more complex cash for keys agreement, I saw one that was like 3 pages long. It just gives avenues for things to get confused. The whole point of the cash for keys is you're going to surrender possession on this date. I'm going to give you a check on that date. We both go our separate ways. And it can be that simple. When you start putting in there, well, you have to clean it and you have to take everyone with you and you got to do this and you got to do that. And then I'll do this and you do that. Now you got a full blown contract that, you know, you don't generally need. It's just a simple agreement between the tenant and the landlord on that. I'm not sure. Someone can remind me, is there a car form for the cashes for keys? I think there was at one point in time. I don't know if there still is one. I'm seeing a lot of nods and no. Was that a yes or no?
I say long time ago, we had something like that.
Yeah, it's just a simple not even a 1 page. It's just a paragraph saying you, the tenant, are going to surrender possession. I, the landlord, are going to give you X amount of dollars and we're going to go our separate ways.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So a couple of other things that you should be aware of is that with the contract itself, with the landlord contract on that, the tenant still has to abide by the terms and conditions of the rental agreement. So if they're in violation of the rental agreement on this, you can still do a notice to cure. During the notice to cure, you can use the CAR form that has a special language on it. It's the new one that they just came out that has all the stuff for notice to cure and has the code sections on that. You have to specifically identify what it is they need to cure, what they're in breach of, and then you have to give them an opportunity to cure it. You give them the 3 days, then you go back and you do an inspection. If they have not cured it, then you can do a notice to quit based upon their failure to cure. Now, when you go through this process on it, it has to be a material breach of the agreement. It can't be something as simple as, well, you have a car parked on the curb that's not supposed to be parked there. If they move the car, they've cured the defect on that and go there. It's got to be a material breach in that they're occupying space that's supposed to be identifiable for other tenants, i.e. assigned parking spots, and they keep blocking and go down that way. They have trash build up or refuge within the property going down that way. They're substantially interfering with the use and enjoyment of the property by other tenants, neighbors, things of that nature. They are doing activities that are above and beyond the lease on that. So you have to look at the lease agreement and see which one it is and how you would actually apply in the situations you're in on that. Some of the courts are allowing it to go all the way through, but generally speaking, you can hold them to the terms and conditions of the contract, regardless of the payments of rents. And then what else do we have going on in the landlord tenants on this? I would definitely start, if you're doing property management on this, I would start talking to your landlords now and or sellers and let them know that there is a strong probability that the moratorium on the eviction is going to go until the end of December, that they should probably look into the new government subsidized program that basically says that if they apply as a landlord and accept any rents based upon their tenants that haven't paid during COVID, that they're giving up their rights to evict, but they are gaining some kind of financial disbursement from that. So that's run through the state of California right now. But the last time, I think it started on March 15th. The last time I looked into it, it hadn't even opened up the page yet. And it required the tenant to start the application process. How about if they move more people into the house than the original lease? Once again, right now, if it's a familiar connection or a family connection on that, you're going to have a hard time getting someone in there unless it's someone that would not normally qualify to live there. So you can do a notice to cure that they basically did a sublease by someone that's not qualified to live there. And generally you have to allow them to do an application. If they qualify, then you got to allow them as a tenant on that. But if it's an illegal sublease and the contract says they can't do it, you might be able to do that through a notice to cure, then a notice to quit. And Linda's dog agrees. How about if they move more people into this? Is there any other on that? Okay. All right. So I'm at the point where I'm more of the question and answer stage now. So if you guys want to unmute and kind of ask the questions, now's the time. You've got my attention. So let's see what we do.
So it looks like Diana has one. She just posted it. Oh, and Lisa did as well.
Okay. When done talking about rentals, can you talk about other issues you're seeing on use of escalation clauses? And what if the tenant doesn't try to apply for the rental assistance program? That's the problem with that one, is that if the tenant doesn't apply for it, you can start the process as a landlord, but I'm not sure that they're going to accept it. So that's kind of, it goes to the process of, well, we'll help you, but if they don't help you, help them. I don't know how they're going to fix that. And I haven't delved into that aspect of it yet. I will look into it. Escalation clause. Lisa, what are you talking about in a sales agreement?
Yeah, just kind of in general, like we were having a conversation this morning about how do you word escalation clauses, and have you had anything come up in any transactions where people have, well, you said this, but this is how I read it type situations?
Most of what we're doing right now are the specific performances, because the market is so hot that people are trying to back out of contracts before it closes for reasons going down that way. As you guys are aware, if all the contingencies are removed and everything is all set to go on the going forward on that, you can always go for a specific performance action, which is inclusive of closing the deal at the rate that it is there. Escalation clauses, most of the time someone's wanting out of the deal, they can say, you can send your notice to perform. If they don't perform based upon the notice to perform on that, the next aspect of it is, if you truly want the house, or you truly want to make them buy the house, then it's a specific performance action going on.
Do you see any liability with, so we're kind of behind the trend with the Bay Area. We're now more often in San Joaquin County, we're getting all of the inspections up front and giving them. And then as a buyer's agent, talking to our clients about removing their inspection contingencies. Is there any sort of liability there if we're giving them the report saying here they are, and then they're not doing their own inspections?
As a seller's agent or as a buyer's
agent?
Buyer's agent, yeah, even though they've got the reports there going that way, you would be amiss not to tell your guys to at least have someone come in and do some of the inspections on the areas that go down that way. Because keep in mind, the seller may have got these inspections done pre-offer going out there. It's just to provide you information. You still have your duty and obligation as a buyer to investigate the property you're going to do. You could say, oh, well, we're going to rely on the reports, but that's not sufficient because you have your own independent ability to do that. Now, are they doing that in the attempts trying to get you to close faster and that you're going to waive the contingency based upon your inspections?
Well, it's the buyer's agents more just trying to get their offers accepted. So they're waiving everything up front. And then who knows what could come up on those other inspections.
Yeah, and that's the conversation you're going to have with if you're acting as a buyer's agent on that. You need to tell your client, say, look, this is the way the market is right now. You can waive these inspections based upon what they've done, and they've given you the information as to that, but I still recommend that you get some kind of inspections done on your own. Because if you close, let's say you do it based upon the inspections that the seller gave to you, then you don't do your own independent inspection on that, something comes up later on, and then you try to sue the seller, they're going to say, hey, we gave you the inspections, that was just your reference point. You still had a duty and obligations to go out and do your own inspection. So if they get accepted in the contract based upon the waiving of the initial inspections, they can still get inspections done. There's nothing stopping them from getting their inspections done, which they should do, especially if they're going to buy a house at the market values that are going on now. So that way they know, eyes open, what they're getting into. So yes, there is a liability to you as a buyer's agent. If you say, oh, don't worry about it, we're going to rely on their report. No, still make the recommendation to them that they get any reports done based upon the seller's reports. If there's any red flags on there, or if they, based upon their own visual inspection, they need to look into the next level, they need to do that. And it's all kinds of fun being a buyer's agent right now, right? All right, I'm looking down. What if the tenant doesn't apply to the rental? Does anybody have a landlord that has applied for the rent program that is out there?
Yes, I have.
Okay,
And I haven't heard a word. Part of the process was to identify who my tenants were,
Mhm.
and I had notified the tenants that we were doing this process, but I don't think that piece is missing.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't gone through the program on it yet, just to see how it goes through there. I do have a couple landlords that have started the process, but I haven't got any that have completed it where they've actually received funds yet. So
I'll let you know if they get back to me with anything.
it's just the market that we're dealing with right now. I guess I can say what I used to say, that the foreclosures are almost dead, but I have a feeling that in 6 months to a year, we're going to be right back to where we were. Because at some point, someone's going to have to pay something, and we're going to get to that point eventually.
I heard a report this morning from the guys were talking about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and them sending out notices to the lending institutions, pretty much telling them to be ready or offer programs to people that are delinquent right now, and they're expecting something to hit towards the end of the year. like probably double what we had in 2008.
Yeah, because if you look at it right now, every house that is a investment property that's not owned outright, that's not receiving any rents, they're all filing for forbearances. The forbearance agreements are going to be, as a landlord, are eventually going to be up, just as the rent forbearances or the evictions moratoriums are eventually going to be up. At some point in time, the bill is going to become due, and I have a feeling that a lot of people are just going to say, "Yeah, it's not worth it," and walk away. And we're going to probably have a lot of foreclosures going again. Okay.
I'm sorry, I do have a question. I heard that you said that the forbearance, I mean, the program is gonna be extended until the end of the year. Is that,
That's my personal opinion. I haven't got any documentation on that yet, other than looking at, if you go to the California State Legislative thing on that, you look at SB 91, and then before that, AB 1342. The language is still there. And if you recall, when this first happened, everyone was screaming, "We got to have no rents for 2 years, no rents for 2 years." And everyone said, "No way, you can't do that, 2 years on that." Well, now they're doing it in 6-month increments, and December 31 of 2021 would be 2 years. So that's, I anticipate that they're going to kick it out that far again. Okay, and then I just saw something on the side here. Can we talk about the Riverside incident where seller not leaving? We're doing rent backs. What happens if seller doesn't leave? Can buyer do anything to get them to leave, or no because of the moratorium? That one is a very specific question, but if it's the seller that's in contract that says that they're going to move out based upon that, I believe that it's not a COVID related incident, that you should be able to move forward on a breach of contract and or a notice to cure based upon the contract. Up to purchase price. If the price comes in 200K lower than the offer price, does the seller have to inform at the 10K over appraisal? Okay, Jodine, I need you to explain yourself, please. I got the question. Where's Jodine?
I'm right here.
Okay.
So if, as a buyer's agent, I offer $40,000 above list price, and I guarantee the appraisal at $10,000 over appraisal. Like, I'll come in, if the appraisal comes in low, we'll come in $10,000 above, up to our offer price of XYZ. Say the appraisal comes in $20,000 or $30,000 low. Does the seller have the opportunity to negotiate, or are they locked in at that $10,000 that the contract says?
If your contract to them is saying is that if it's within 10,000, we'll cover it, but you're telling me that it's 20 to 30, then your contract is not saying to cover it. So the seller has a choice. They can either say, yeah, you're not in compliance with the contract, we can walk away, or they can renegotiate and say, you guys got to cover the difference on that.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, because it's your term that's not being met. And if your term's not being met, there's always negotiation on that.
Okay. Okay. That's what I thought. Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. All right.
All right, you guys, any questions? This is open. So it's our first time in a long time, actually. We've had Chad out here, so utilize it, please. Anything going on right now because of the COVID thing, or is there anything outside of COVID that's going on in your world that we want to talk about regarding real estate and the law?
What's the status on open houses in California? Is that coming back anytime soon?
Probably not. I think once you reach if you look at the tiered thing, the aspect of it, I think once you get in the orange tier or lighter going on that way, it might open up a limited capacity on that. But the problem is you can't force, if it's a tenant occupied one, you can't force them to allow people in to view going in that way. And at some point, open houses will probably open up for empty houses, but there's going to be some kind of statutory mandate on how many people can be in at any given point in time. So, but keep in mind,
Is there any update on being able to either door knock or door leave?
door not or door leave. I don't know. The other day I had someone come knock on my door trying to sell us solar. So if you're comfortable with that, just keep in mind that a lot of people won't answer the door, and some people will get mad if you're not masked up and ready to go down that way. But I don't know of a moratorium on it saying you're not supposed to go to door-to-door solicitation on it, but I would imagine that it's going to be a comfort level and what you want to do on that.
Well, hang tight because there are some things that we do have to follow. Chris, do you want to chime in on that, or Rachel? I don't know who's.
I saw Chris's picture up here earlier.
Yeah, so on the door knocking, there's not one, but car legal is telling us not to do it. So that's where we're going off of, because it's a really gray area. And like you said, I mean, I get salesmen all the time to my door and it ticks me off because they don't even have masks on.
Yeah, and that's
So,
what I'm saying is
it's
that
just-
I would probably say that knocking on doors is probably a little premature at this point in time.
I think they
And
are
just so
saying
you
that we can
know-
do warm pop buys, meaning with their permission.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
obviously,
that's
if you're invited by the owner and they say, yeah, come in, I want to talk to you, that's different than just knocking on the door and saying, hey. Let's see, time frame once for the seller is given notice to perform and then wants to cancel because buyer is not performing. That's going to be to the contract and whether you altered the times for performance on that. But if you, as a seller, do your notice to perform to the buyer and they don't do it, then, within the time period on it, you can cancel, move on to the next one. Problem is make sure you have a strong material breach that has occurred in the purchase contract, because if the buyer really wants the house, they can file a notice to perform saying they don't agree with your notice to perform that you filed. And then more importantly, they can file what's called a lis pendens and tie up the title to the property, and no one will be able to purchase the house or sell the house. But that has to be in concert with a civil action. You can't just file a lis pendens and not a civil action. You have to file a civil action that deals directly with ownership or title issue on the property, and then you can put the world on notice with the lis pendens.
And then Linda, you have your hand raised.
Hi, sorry, thank you. I had a quick question regarding, right now we have a seller that's in rent back, free rent back, and we held 3,000 out in escrow per the request from buyer as a security deposit, cleaning deposit. So, so I have coached my sellers that we need a deep clean, cleaning and all that after they move out into May. So is there for any reason that the buyer decides to hold back some money for whatever reason? I mean, what could that be? I know, of course, damage, the obvious stuff, but I'm coaching them to clean, but is there anything that they could hold back?
They can always make a determination that if it's 3,000 and it's been delineated as a deposit, a security deposit on the occupancy of the property, you can look at the Civil Code section 1954.7, I think it is, and that deals with what deductions can be made from a security deposit on that. But if you treat it like a traditional security deposit on it, they can't do normal wear and tear. It's got to be some kind of material damage done to it. If they bring cleaners in, they got to demonstrate the reason and necessity for the cleaners on that. But the short answer is it all depends on what they try to deduct from it. But there is recourse for the sellers to come back and say, no, we don't agree with that. It's under the small claims civil code section on that, where you can contest. And if you're successful, you can get a deposit up to 3 times the amount the deposit was withheld on that. But because it's not a traditional lease agreement, unless the contract clearly unequivocally identifies the 3,000 as a deposit for the rent itself, and there's a rental agreement, it's all going to depend. So I guess it depends.
Yeah, and they're getting free rent back. At the 11th hour, the buyer decides after she signed everything that she wants to get in a day or two earlier, and that kind of was like, oh my gosh, here we go, because they have a senior that's graduating on the 29th of May. they had everything planned out and she wanted to move in on the 29th. So everything kind of got escalated at the very end. So I just hope, you know, we can agree. So far, everything's kind of like smooth for now, but at the 11th hour, yeah, we had some
Yeah.
issues.
It's the ripple effect because where the sellers are moving to, is their place empty and ready for them to move into, or is it not? Because it's
It's out of state. It's in Arkansas. So the problem was, I mean, are you talking about the buyer's place? The sellers, they're packing up as we speak, but they can't literally leave because they're seniors graduating from Tracy High School on the 29th of May. So they hadn't, planned on rolling out until the Sunday, I guess. And that's when the cleaners are coming in.
okay. We'll just have to see.
Yeah.
The short answer is that, it's been my experience that whenever money's held back in escrow, the party that asked for the money to be held back seems that they believe that it's their money regardless of what happened and how it's going to go forward from there.
Oh, gosh.
They may be looking at
Okay.
it as, well, yeah, it was quote unquote rent back for free, but that $3,000 is got to come to me because they should have paid us rents.
Oh, hope not. Oh boy. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to have to keep my eye on that.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Geneva. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, hi. Didn't know how to do the hand thing. Okay, so I wanted to go back to the whole giving tenants notice. So I have a situation. I have a daughter who owns a condo and I'm the listing agent. I'm also have interest in the property because I'm on title. So we've given the tenant notice. The offer we received was subject to the buyer's property selling. So this tenant hasn't been there. I don't think she's been there up to a year. So what you're saying is my daughter has to give her a 60-day notice, not a 30?
The way I'm reading it's actually because of the AB on that yes, to make sure that if this property is in San Joaquin County or Stanislaus County, to make sure that
you went out on me. I didn't hear you.
Yes. There's a short answer. Yes.
Okay, so they have to have a 60-day. Yes. And does my daughter have to give them rent free?
No, not they only. So this is where the problem is because some language has said that the 60-day notice applies to everybody, and then the rent forgiveness generally only applied if they were a qualified individual that had been there more than 12 months and that you weren't an owner that was the INC going down that way. To be in the situation where you actually know that you're not going to get kicked out for being over generous in your notice, I recommend that you do the 60-day notice on that and forgive the last month's rent, which is equal to the moving expenses of that property on it.
Okay. All right. So so with that being said, we're going to have to extend our escrow.
I don't know. I don't know how long your escrow is or where it's at.
Don't hear you.
I don't know the specifics of your escrow on that, so you're gonna have to take a look at that.
Okay, well, if she has to give them 60-day notice, then yeah, I have to extend the escrow. Right now, the contract reads, it's subject to the buyer's property selling, and they just went into escrow.
Okay.
So there's a 30-day there. And it'll be, I'm sorry?
You open a dialogue with the tenant and see if you can't get them to surrender at an earlier period of time.
Well, I have spoken to them.
Okay.
So, but you never know how people are going to act towards the end.
You never
Right?
know until it happens.
You never know. When it comes to money, you never know.
Yeah.
Okay, so how we doing, you guys? What other questions do you have? We're getting closer to, it's 11:47.
Yeah.
Diana, do you have one?
Yes,
you
I did.
very
I did
much.
type the question, but I didn't know if it was clear, the question. I have a contract where,
I was just getting it. When a contract has aligned other terms, some of the furniture to be included, a list will be separate. Is that held if the list is on an email, not in contract? If it's made an addendum to the contract on that, so if they sent you an email saying these are the items that we're keeping, is that what it is, or is it the items that they're leaving?
They want to sell the furniture, so they offer it for sale, and then the offer was made including some of that furniture. But then obviously the buyer decided he was okay paying separate, so he wouldn't have issues with the lender. But so we end up putting the list of the furniture he wanted to purchase on an email, not an addendum. And now things are not happening the way they were. That's why I was like, oh, how does that hold? Because the listing agents tell me, well, the list of furniture you put in is on an email. It's not anywhere in the contract, so it's not going to be included in the sale of
Yeah.
that contract.
I would agree that because it's items listed outside of unless it's in as an addendum on the contract, it's your wish list basically. So if he's buying those items outside of escrow because it's not real property, it's just personal property on that, you probably need a separate agreement on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but typically we address any personal property as a separate bill of sale. Nothing to do with the RPA or the purchase contract, correct?
Yes, you do it separate. And most lenders don't want to see that you're keeping furniture, because if you're putting as part of the sale, you're going to have to put some certain verbiage in there that states that it has no value and it's being left at the convenience to the seller, so they just don't have to take it. Otherwise, you have to get a furniture appraiser out there, and then it gets deducted from the loan, and it's a mess. It's better not to put it on there like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so have a garage sale on the day that the house closes, and then have your client go and give them money for the garage sale furniture. So separate bills on it. Let's see, what's the other one? MSL, sort of verbiage and the confidential comments. Okay, so let's clarify something real quick on this. MLS, confidential comments. If you can access them and anybody else on MLS can access them, are they confidential comments? No. And if it's not a confidential comment on that, then you could be exposed for any liability that someone later on determines was adverse to their interest on that. So if you have a confidential comment on that saying, please, I don't know what would be, if you did like a comment along the lines, tread lightly because the seller is very obnoxious. And it turns out they don't get to sell it, and they find out that comment was in the confidential comments on that later on, and they go to a different agent and they lose money because the market crashes going in that way. You could potentially be exposed to liability because of your comment preventing them to have a potential buyer come in there. So while it says confidential comments on that, confidential comments are not necessarily confidential on that. And we always have to be mindful that we are not in the business of trying to make someone's life difficult. We're trying to make their life easy and easier to go forward on that. Any comments that you made that may, in the confidential, that may be interpreted as adverse to your client and or the buyers on that may create problems later on. So just generic statements are probably the best way to go, even in the confidential area on that.
I'm gonna give a shameless plug for Chad, that if you haven't gotten your trust done or your clients, encourage them to reach out to Chad. He does a really good job. He'll make sure you understand everything. And the peace of mind that you get from having that all done is priceless.
Thank you.
Lisa, thank you so much for bringing that up. How often should you be updating your trust?
Updating your trust all depends on life. If things have dramatically changed within the year of just doing it, then you probably want to change it. Most of the time, I say it revolves around births and deaths, and then or purchases. So if you make a substantial purchase going on that way, if you're in a different tax bracket, you might want to consider doing something else. If you have 2 or 3 grandkids that come along, or if you have someone of significance pass on you, you want to take a look at it and make sure that you're up to date on it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So,
Chad, I want to thank you personally for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know it's crazy right now, and it's important to us to always stay on the forefront. So thank you so much. I appreciate you.
yeah, no worries. And then if you guys know, you can generally get a hold of me through the office on that. We're pretty responsive on it. If it's a quick question, I can answer it. But if it takes any of my time, I got to charge you for it. Otherwise, I end up with a calendar full of quick questions.
We got it. We got it. Thank you.
All right.
All right, you guys stay on. We have a couple different updates.
All right, thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
All right, you guys. So we do have a couple Red Day updates. And I also wanted to throw out there, if you could put in the chat, what classes do you want to see? I understand a lot of people are enjoying the listing classes, so that's great. But what other classes are you wanting for our Monday meetings? If you can put it in the chat, that'd be great. And then Desiree, do you want to go ahead and start with Red Day for Lodi? Please.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So we've put together a project to help the seniors of our community. I reached out to several of the senior care facilities in Lodi, which there are quite a few, and 2 of them responded. The thing is that they're still limited to the amount of people that can go in and into the facilities themselves. So we can't all show up in, 30, 40 people at each facility. So they're limiting 5 people to show up at each. We have 2 different facilities, River Fountains and Arbor. We're going to be putting together gift baskets for the seniors, 2 different baskets for each for the facilities. So, I was speaking with Michele. I think we're going to give an option. If you want to buy a Red Day t-shirt, we'll put that out there. If not, then that's completely up to you. Again, there'll only be 5 of us at each location this year.
Thank you so much, Des. I appreciate it. There are links that have been sent out regarding the Red Day t-shirts. So definitely go online and purchase them. I believe we only have a couple more days if you are still thinking about purchasing. Danny and Krista or Barb, are you guys around to chat about Red Day for Stockton?
Sure. Hi guys. I'll go ahead and speak for Stockton. So just so everyone knows, all the business offices are doing it separately this year, just to make that clear. And so this is for the Stockton office primarily, and we are supporting Wagner Heights Residential Center Living Facility here in Stockton. And I believe some emails have already gone out. And the way we set it up is because a lot of them do not have a support system. There's a lot of seniors who have not had just the regular day-to-day stuff on hand, like, shampoo, soap, socks, things like that. So what we decided to do is support them and give them try to replenish some of those supplies they don't have. And Danny just put, I see the link on there. What we've also set up is different donation levels. So basically we have a $100 donation, platinum level, gold level 75, silver is 50, and bronze is 25. And you can either leave a check in the office, in the Stockton office, or you can Venmo to Peggy at P. Hetledge. So we'd really love people to contribute. And then we are going to probably we will be able to go to the facility and see them from the outside on Red Day. So just want everyone to know about it. It is a little different this year, but we can still really do a lot for these seniors who have been without help since COVID started.
Awesome. Thank you so
I don't
much.
know if Danny and Krista. Oh, and hopefully you saw Danny and Krista's really cute video. If you didn't, you should look for it. It's a winner. So take a look at that.
Thank you. If you could repost that video and the link to donate, that'd be awesome as well. I appreciate it. And maybe we need to put a topic on there for Red Day on the Facebook group, which I believe you can do that as well. If not, I'll do that in a moment. Okay. So, what was that?
I was just gonna say, I just reposted the YouTube link inside there and everything.
I appreciate it, you guys. This is awesome. All right, Tracy, Janet, and Renee. I believe I saw you guys.
I have Janet's on, but okay, so we're gonna love on our veterans this year and do a drive-through spaghetti dinner that Mike Bicchetti is graciously helping us out with. And we're going to host it at our local American Legion Hall parking lot. So it's really coming together. So it will be the 13th. The dinner will be from 4 to 6:30. Our needs right now are, of course, money. We have around 300 right now that was provided by our Super Bowl pool, but we're aiming for 1,000. So we are also looking for either sponsors or honestly, at this point, I'm ready to say, you know what, I'm gonna donate 100. So any of you Tracy agents that want to match me, I think we could come up with this $1,000 very, very quickly. So that's what I'm putting out there. And then we're looking for raffle prizes, anywhere from a $10 gift card to for coffee, or just simple raffle prizes, because we're earlier in the day going to have a fun little raffle prize giveaway. We'll video it, FaceTime it, or Facebook Live, and give to the people that have signed up for the dinner. We have 250 spots for that dinner. So we're looking forward to it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Lodi, what are we doing? Not Lodi, I'm sorry. Manteca Modesto. Who's on here? Manteca Modesto. I saw a few of you earlier. All right. So we will get an update from them after the ALC meeting this week. We'll get things going. Real quick, you guys, do you understand what Red Day is? Is Desiree still on here? She's our 2019 Culture Ambassador for Northern California and Hawaii. I thought maybe she can chime in. Is she still on here?
I am.
All right. Tell us give us your thoughts on Red Day.
Well, a Red Day, renew, energize, and donate. So if you don't know, for those of you that are new and have never participated in a Red Day, it's every office, across the country, and even the other countries that we're now open in and running, shut down, and they give back to our community. We give back. We show up in our Red Day t-shirts typically. I mean, aside from COVID, has kind of changed things for us this last year and this year as well. And we give back. I mean, we've done some really heavy projects, and we're showing our community that we don't make a living in our community, and we help people, on all sorts of different levels, right? And it's a very fulfilling event. If you have not participated, I really can't wait till we can get back to a sense of normal, and all get together and accomplish some of these projects that we've done in the past. Have been just amazing to see how we change and assist in changing people's lives.
Yeah, that is. Thank you so much. On that note of culture, what does culture mean to you guys? Who wants to chat up and talk about that? In our regional meeting this morning, we talked about culture and our belief system. If somebody was able to tell me or tell all of us, and that's not Patty or Patrick or Peggy, what our belief systems, what it is. I have a little handy dandy gift card to Starbucks in my pocket someplace that I will give out. Can somebody tell us what the belief system is? Okay, you could say that, Patty. Go ahead and say that.
The Y4C2Ts.
Yes, Julie. I believe you might have left out a new one, though. Did you? I believe there's a new one.
Yes, there's a new one. Commit? Is it? What?
Yeah. Yes, very, very good. If you want to say, I'll go ahead and
Good job, Laura. Good job.
Oh my gosh, Laura. Awesome. I didn't even see that. I was just getting ready to print that. That is awesome. I'm so glad. Yes. Okay. 2 gift cards right there, because Laura, you just surprised the heck out of me. That was amazing. I didn't see that pop up. And Julie, what a way to chime in, sister. I love it. What does culture mean to you guys, though? When we say KW cares, what is that? What does that mean to you? What does culture mean to you, period, within our KW offices? Anybody?
To give maybe when somebody doesn't know you're giving.
Yeah, yeah. Pay somebody's way to bold. Pay somebody's way to make a camp, right?
Pay it forward.
Pay it forward. Right, right. Which is amazing to see. I can't even believe how many ALC members always step up to pay for bold for people who are kind of struggling a little bit and just need that little, tap on the shoulder and little support. So I love seeing that. Or when people are donating, when somebody is going through some hard times, people just come up and send out some gift cards, or they end up at the front desk, which is awesome to see. We always want to give back to our communities, but we also want to give back to our to our agents, our fellow agents. That's why there are some lines on your demand green sheets, what we used to call them, right? That you could do some line items. KW Cares, obviously, and Red Day. So that's something. That's one of the reasons why Larry Underhill won that award, because he gives back every single closing. It's just an automatic gesture for him. Does anybody have a story about something with KW culture?
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
I would say it's just the openness of the agents here. Yeah, like you go to other brokerages just to kind of check them out, and you don't have the same culture. Like people are not as willing to help you. It's kind of like a give and receive kind of culture here, and you know that like people are gonna kind of help you out and guide you through certain things when most other agencies wouldn't do that. And I think that's pretty much why Keller Williams is so successful, having that kind of culture, because as you grow, you know, the company will continue to grow and help you to even build your business. So not only, you know, are you learning to be a real estate agent, they're teaching you how to run a company if that's what you want to do. And the training is just like, I haven't seen anything else like this. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cornell. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Well,
Julie.
so can I share a story?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so this is way back when, you know, before 90%, 98% of you guys were here. Patty, I think, was here, and we had a MCA. Her name was Theta, and her husband was going through, I believe it was a kidney. He needed a kidney transplant, and Keller Williams stepped up because our office was so good about giving back, and not just because of that, but you know, you have to submit an application to be helped. But they ended up, her husband ended up having to go to Kaiser. They lost their insurance. They lost, you know, so much because their insurance wouldn't pay for it anymore because it was so expensive. And so KW Care stepped up, paid for Theta and her husband to stay at Stanford for, I think it was a month or longer. And Theta got to go live there with her husband. They supplemented Theta's salary, and they paid for their insurance, which ended up being $2,000 a month until he was better. And he did make it through this, as far as she's been long gone. But those are the kind of thing that Keller Williams culture is. And we could go on and on with all those stories about all the people in the fires and the floods, and
oh my God,
it doesn't end. And so I just want to encourage everybody, you know, even just giving a little bit of every check makes a huge difference, because you will be amazed at, you know, when somebody steps up in our office and somebody needs that help, they do look and see how much that office has given back and what they've, you know, how they've participated. So I just want to encourage everybody to think about giving back on your paycheck from every closing, whether it's, you know, $5 or whatever you feel like you can give. It makes a big difference. Yes. So that's my 2 cents.
Julie, that was beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, you guys, we all know that we've lost a few of our agents, and we, as together, we have raised a lot of money. We've also have had them use KW Cares in many, many ways. We also have had, you know, I remember when Patty was on the ALC with me and we were going through something with another agent, and the ALC gave so much money to one of our agents just within an hour, raise enough money to have her and her grandchildren go to Disneyland. And see, I can't even look at you, Patty. I will not look at Patty right now. And so, and they were able to upgrade to like a suite. It was so amazing to be able to come back here within 24 hours of this happening and give this back to them. It was amazing, amazing. That's how KW is. KW all over the place. So yeah. So I just wanted to talk about our culture and talk about Red Day. All right, you guys. Any questions or anything you want to chat about?
I have one more thing, Michelle.
Yes.
Maybe 2 more. First, I want to thank everybody for sharing. I really appreciate like, even though we've been, that I've been a part of Keller Williams for a while now, it's always nice to hear these reminders and what we've done and where we've been. And so thank you for that. So reminder about going back to our red day. We do have a couple raffle prizes that I thought I could share with you real quick. So one is this awesome Yeti.
Wow.
Can you see the Yeti cooler? It's a full-size Yeti cooler.
Just put my hand on that right now. I want that.
And the 2 beach chairs. So that was donated to us by one of our lenders here in town. But she, we're gonna help. It's gonna help us raise money for our event. And then Lisa, if she's still on, we have one of those beautiful wood flags, American flags, that will also be raffled off. So these are our fundraising raffles to help provide for our Red Day event. So if anybody wants a ticket, please reach out to Janet and I. We haven't come up with the price yet. So that's, we're putting that together. How much per ticket?
I love that. I love that.
So thank you.
Great ideas. You guys are all coming together. So that's exciting. And
Shout out.
What was that?
Just, I want to give a shout out for the next team meeting. I know I've reached out to poll a couple of you and asked, what did you want to hear, as Michelle asked this morning. And we're having Mr. Cody Gibson, who of course is the owner of United Home Group. And a lot of you gave me feedback in saying that, you know, mindset for the buyer side. We've been talking a lot about listings, but it's been, you know, a bit of a struggle on writing multiple offers and not getting those offers accepted. So it's twofold. It's mindset on how to really have the right attitude, put yourself in the right, you know, position to be able to consult your buyers. You got to be right first with you and understanding the market and being good with your own emotions, so you can then guide and consult your buyers in this market where it's very competitive. So he will be joining us along with our sister offices down in Fresno and also Elk Grove. So there'll be a bigger group on our call that day. So I hope to see you all there next Monday at 11.
Hey, Patty, I want to invite San Jose too. You know what? Actually, I'm just going to throw it out to there to all the other team leaders in Northern California and Hawaii. Is that good?
Do it as long as you don't break Zoom. Make sure you use the full capacity.
All
Check
right.
on that first.
Send me a link. We're good. No. I believe we're at 500 if I'm not mistaken, Peggy, right? I believe so. I'll check. Yeah. That's a good suggestion though. Okay, I saw something about appraisals. Okay, yeah. I like that. And then something about buyer scripts. I believe Lisa put that. So I have that and appraisals. But we also know that we have scripts going on twice a week with the role playing too. So I heard that's going very, very well.
Only on Thursdays right now as we're doing Ignite, Michelle. Okay. Only on Thursday.
Things
Actually,
change.
my buyer's agents were saying they've logged into the script practice and they said the scripts are amazing. They love it.
Oh, I
They
love
would
hearing that.
like it to be a little more, some script practice around buyers though, because of course we're also focused on listings right now, but the buyers need to practice too, and practice.
Right. Thank you so much for the feedback, Lisa. Beth, woo! Where are you, Beth? That's why she won the Culture Award, right? So yeah, so she's always coming from contribution and helping others. So great job, Beth. Thank you so much. All right, you guys, it is Monday. It's 12:12. Make it a great day. Enjoy. Bye, you guys.